everyone, and welcome to ZankCast, where we talk about Beyblade topics. Now, for this episode, it's going to be a little bit special. To this, am I looking at the right? No, shit. To this side, we have our co-host Nizuma, the Leon Claw Blader King, dominant in the C tier section. And to the other, am I looking at the right way? Thank God. And to the other side, we have the Texan Blader, the Nitro Wielder, news reporter and commentator, first-time guest, Ilinnuc, everybody.
Hello. How's it going? Glad to be here.
Amazing. We got everyone here. Alrighty, well, what are we going to talk about for an hour? Let's start off with our first topic, boys, Hasbro Beyblade X, and the amazing launch of June 1st.
Launch. Definitely not launched, but...
Soft launch.
Barely out.
Yeah, that was kind of a miss. I feel like 90% of stores had nothing.
Oh yeah.
Or more even. I'm just now starting to find a handful of things. Like none of the aisles are completely set up. There's no end caps. There's no big displays in any of the stores in my city. And I go to like 5.
What about you?
It's like 50-50. Like there's like a Walmart that's like 5 or 6 miles away that has that big display, but that display is pretty limited in what it has. It doesn't have a lot of double packs, no Phoenix, no bucket stadiums. All the GameStops are sold out near me. And Target has like 2 or 3 starters and then like 1 Phoenix launcher. But otherwise there's really nothing much like at all.
Well, I think Canada, we literally had it June 1st, but also our prices are terrible, so that's maybe a factor to why we discovered most of the stuff on time.
I will say it's pretty interesting how fast everything is selling. All of the stores that I've found that have had stuff have pretty much sold out of everything.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing something similar. Like the Phoenix launchers are selling. Kind of depends on your area as well, right? Like some areas, some stock might be a little bit better than others. What I am seeing though is not a lot of the stadium sets are selling, but I assume that's because it's $50. And it's one of those things where you don't buy multiple of them at one time. You buy like one single one. And I also think people are probably using their burst stadiums still. And they're not really considering, because there's no bucket stadiums here either. So nobody's buying those instead yet. So unless they got it on Amazon, I think people are probably using their burst stadiums and thinking that's fine, which kind of defeats the purpose of it a little bit. But,
Right. So I'll start off with kind of the segue into this. I did think the overall selection for Wave 1 was pretty strong. You had things like Dronzer S. You had good selection of 2-packs. They picked some stuff from like the 3-on-3 sets, put it in there. I think overall was very, very strong, similar to that of the launch of Burst, where they kind of just dropped 50 things and it's like just throwing it to like the crows to pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Wave 1's pretty solid. There's a lot of cool stuff. Them having Phoenix so early with the string launcher is definitely a W in my book.
Yeah. It was a little bit odd, though, because I think, technically speaking, the first release of Point, even though we have a Leon Claw clone of Steel Samurai, is Optimus Prime, which is really throwing me off.
That's funny. I think the selection is good. I'm a little worried that they potentially went a little too hard. I'm glad that we got the Phoenix set, although I feel like they probably could have done maybe the blue launcher like the blue string launcher with a recolor of some sort. Although the Phoenix thing is great, but Leon Claw before, or no, sorry, Chain Incendio, whatever, before Claw Leon is odd. No Night Lance is kind of odd, but yet I don't know. So some of it's weird, and I'm worried that wave 2 and 3 and whatnot will be lighter, or maybe we're gonna get like exclusive Hasbro recolors, which could be kind of cool. But I'm just worried if they started too crazy straight away, it's going to be kind of weak until Christmas when we maybe get the UX stuff. I don't know when we're going to get that, though.
Yeah, because a lot of the listings, at least that we kind of got ahead of time for most of this stuff, I think Claw Leon is going to be paired up with Lance as a starter, but I'm pretty sure there's like 2 other repeated ones, but... Yeah, Wave 2 and plus UX is going to be split probably really weird. I know they're pairing up Hell's Hammer and Black Shell, I think, in a 2-pack, but I assume anyways, because like the anime is starting, I think this summer supposed to come out, and they usually do waves based on the animation. I wouldn't expect Wave 2 until like maybe fall, maybe closer to honestly winter, because like they need to play catch up with the anime, which might be odd, because I don't know, because otherwise you're gonna have so many products, but the products are, you need the animation. I don't know, it's weird launch. Yeah,
and I know the animes, I can't find the source on it, but I've seen it's like, at least here in the US, it's July 13th, I believe, which is a Saturday, also the same day that Cobalt Dragoon releases. And yeah, you're right in how it should kind of line up with the anime for the most part, right? Or else because people aren't going to buy stuff potentially if it's not shown in the anime yet, because it's like such a big advertising thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why it was just really surprising that we got Phoenix now, when that could have been like the release of Wave 2, because we don't see Phoenix for a while, but we see Claw Leon a lot earlier. So it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, Nizuma, what do you think of Hasbro delaying your favorite's Bey?
I mean, I'm not mad about it, because like Wave 1 is like hardly even in stores as it is, so it's like it's whatever. But I don't know. The thing with the previous generations is like there was like we always had some sort of like pre-anime stuff come out. Right. So like Plastic Gen, you had like, you know, Ultimate Dragoon, Frostic, and like all these like no-name filler Beyblades that came out in Wave 1. And then sort of the same thing, I don't know, I don't remember what Metal Fight released it long. I think the anime, man, I don't remember the timeline really.
Bro.
The
Metal
pre-hybrid wheel
anime.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but that didn't come out in North America though.
No, yeah, sorry. Metal Fight's pre-hybrid wheel, or just metal system, and then after the hybrid wheel system. But Hasbro just adapted from the hybrid wheel system, and they did the Legends, which was an adaptation of the metal system in the hybrid wheel system.
Yeah, it was those that they came in the little boxes or whatever at one point too.
Yeah, I remember getting those. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about it. I want to see more recolors that are exclusive to Hasbro. Like right now, pretty much everything that's packed is like recolor, the random booster recolors. Like we got Green Shark and all that stuff. Like I want to see actual exclusive recolors. That's like the main thing that I want from because I already have everything pretty much. So like the incentive outside of just accumulating more parts or having stuff sealed or whatever for me is like new stuff, new recolors, new Hasbro exclusives. That's what I really want.
Yeah. What's interesting too is that for Beyblade Burst, Hasbro, for like that initial Wave 1, if I'm remembering it right, like it came out, because I was watching some of my old videos on this just to kind of see timelines. They came out in Canada in like late August or early September.
Yep.
And they weren't out here in the US until I did my like I found them in stores video on the 31st of December.
Right.
So it took forever. So, I will say anybody that's, everyone that's watching this, that even if you don't have them in your stores and you see people in Canada and they're bay hunting and they have everything, it was way worse back in the day. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what it was like for Metal Fight because I joined in kind of late, but also for the first waves of Burst, Hasbro did bring over the pre-anime stuff and they put it in boosters and it was super ugly looking, right? But that kind of filled up the wave in that first wave a little bit. But for here, they filled it up with releases that we didn't see for months from Takara Tomy.
Yeah.
So in order to kind of I'm guessing for Wave 2, I'm kind of expecting Wave 2 to have single packs, double packs, boosters all release at once.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to do that. And I don't know if they can. Because if they have everything released at one time, they're going to catch up with Takara Tomy really quick.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what they're doing here. And I'm assuming Wave 2 is going to be quite a bit smaller and have those repeated. Like Wave 2 starters have the 2 new things and then 2 old things.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
It's possible they fill those other gaps too with some of the exclusives because we got the Star Wars stuff still and the Marvel stuff.
But those are, I'm assuming, I would love to see those on shelves because I think those have really, I don't really care about them in terms of like performance or anything, but they would look cool on a shelf. And people that aren't Beyblade fans, but maybe they're Star Wars fans, if there is any anymore. Or if they're, they're Marvel fans, maybe they'll be more attracted to it and they'll get into the lineup. But then they put Transformers on Amazon exclusive, which defeats the whole purpose. So I'm thinking that the exclusive stuff like that is going to be separate when really I don't think it should be. I think that's a bit of an L, to be honest.
I think so too. Maybe this is a way to test sort of the market for the collab stuff. I would rather see it in stores personally, but it's whatever.
This started with around Quad Strike era, where a lot of stuff appeared up in Amazon way earlier than stores, like Sparking Pro series, a bunch of other stuff. They definitely have some deal with Amazon where there's like an earlier launch. I don't know if that's going to be for everywhere, but I assume probably for the online market, it's a lot easier for everyone to just go there than maybe stores. But I mean, it would be nice to see like Thanos in stores, I guess. I don't know.
Right. It's also, I'm sure it's cheaper for them too, because they don't have, at least maybe right now, they don't have that shelf command like they did. Because they didn't have a lot of shelving space at the beginning of Burst either. Like I remember going into Target and their lineup was so small. It was like a tiny little line with their horrible Burst Season 1 packaging that was devoid of all color and it was terrible. But then once it started to get sales and traction, Season 2 is when it really started to spread out. And then even up until, I want to say, Speedstorm or Surge or whatever. I think after Surge is when it kind of started to shrink again. But those are releases that maybe it's like artificial scarcity, or if you have it as like a pre-order or get it online, when it might be too expensive for them to take up a whole other rack if they don't have it, because Bakugan, they're paying for that space somehow. They're still making money, I guess. And whatever Aikido is, I don't know what Aikido is, but that's taking up space too.
All the Bakugan stuff in my stores is clearanced out now.
Yeah, I'm seeing sets that are like $30 or like $9 and whatnot. So that's a whole different topic.
Sorry to the Bakugan fans who are catching strays.
I mean, I love Bakugan as much as the next guy, and I don't have any Bakutech stuff like I want to get. I want to get into Bakutech a little bit, but their spinny top special attack stuff is just downright horrible. So I don't care about it.
Yeah, but I think overall they're doing pretty good. I assume, kind of just touching back on what we kind of said, I would assume instead of filling it with anime releases, we might see them spread out a lot of these exclusives, Roar Tyranno, Savage Bear, Yell Kong, those type of stuff, because those are just easy filler slots. Like, they're technically new releases, I say new in big air quotes because they're just retooled, but that's at least content that can space out with like Unicorn and that type of stuff. Because I assume their strategy till the end game is going to be every blade that's released, they can make some exclusive out of it, which is going to be pretty smart, I guess, because that just means they don't have to waste money trying to make a new mold, and you can maybe get like Roar Tyranno for I don't even know what that's the name. I'm just going to go with it now. I don't care anymore. Roar Tyranno is like the clone of Phoenix Wing. It's interesting to see these variants, even if none of them are good, except for Steel Samurai.
Yeah, I'm glad they have them. Like I will say, it's hard not to be at least a little bit disappointed that there isn't something that's like completely unique.
Yep.
You know, but I will say I'd rather have that than nothing at all. Or, I mean, I say this because I already have the recolors, but there's some people that don't have them from Takara Tomy, right?
Yeah.
So I would say I'd rather have Roar Tyranno than some random, the 85th Wizard Arrow recolor that Takara Tomy released. But some people, that might be their second Wizard Arrow or Arrow Wizard or whatever. So for them, I don't know. But I do like the exclusives. I do hope they get a little bit more creative in the future, but we'll kind of see.
Yep. Yeah, I think overall, I think Hasbro did pretty good. I'm very happy to see. A big thing too, the plastic quality is pretty much 1-to-1, and like everything's the same now. Like I'm so happy because like it's such an unfortunate thing that Pro Series was what it was, because it was a very genius idea to have the Japanese base, even though whatever semantics, whatever on like the whole stuff of the history of that, but. I like the concept, but now like it's so nice to know that if I go to a store, I have the same advantage as someone who bought Takara Tomy, other than like the year difference,
exactly,
like, material wise.
And all the parts are cross compatible because they didn't change up the system at all. And you could probably force a Hasbro layer from Burst with a Takara Tomy driver, but it doesn't work how it's supposed to. And anybody that says that you can mix and match parts, you really can't, or you're not supposed to, right? I will say, I'm sure this is already on the docket, but Hasbro's already having some issues. Let's talk about that Chain Incendio 580 instead of 560. I have no idea how it's possible, but there's a bit of a problem there as well. So.
Yeah, I think I saw Shindog reporting on it. So if you got it, well, I assume this was probably some weird batch, but mixing up a 580 and a 560 on the height is crazy for production error. I don't think like for Takara Tomy, like I know we have like maybe like gear points for an example, the protrusion on the ball that can vary. Okay, that's ass quality control, but like, dude. Who in the factory is like smoking? They can't like. They gotta have a This is an assembly line, man. Someone's got to be reviewing this. So
and isn't it the same factory as Takara Tomy as well? So how is it? Yeah, how does that work?
They're not paying them enough in that factory, bro.
Yeah, I'm assuming that'll get fixed. Like I'm sure that that'll end up sort of. That'll end up getting their attention, and other people will complain about it. I'm sure that'll get rectified. Somebody will get in trouble, I'm sure. But
yeah, it's interesting because I got a Hasbro one because I wanted an extra chain, right? And mine had a standard 560. So it seems, I don't know if it's like half of them are messed up or if it's like 25. I don't really know what the percentages is. I don't know how big of a problem it is. I would argue seemingly it's less of a problem than Takara Tomy's Unite error, which was a massive error, but when I say massive, but it's probably not that big of a deal. But it's interesting. I hope they fix that and we don't get any issues like that again. That's kind of annoying.
Yeah, Unite is really weird because I was even seeing the tweet talking about it. I think honestly, I can't tell if it was intended or not, because I even looked in the video, and Unite at an angle looks like the ball protrudes. But then after, like, in the video, it's light launched, and I'm just thinking, was it an error? I don't know, but I think Unite's either way. Like, to have that ball there and it does nothing is still an L. Like, even if it's different performance, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I'd be interested to try it out, because, I mean, I saw only like a couple of people on Twitter had like the normal one or the one that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm wondering if that'd make it better or worse.
Yeah, I mean, without the point, it kind of sits a little bit lower than a lot of the other ratchets. I think that might be an advantage. But I imagine when we get it from Hasbro, if they're going to rectify it, I imagine Hasbro will get a fixed version.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because I mean,
if they rectify it.
Yeah. Because Gear Point had the same issue where some Gear Points didn't protrude as much and some did, but yeah, I don't know. They're struggling with the balls in production. All right, next, our segue for this one. Speaking of which, a bay that has many balls on it, dotted. We have the legendary Black Shell. It's gonna be meta day one, boys. Oh my god, the turtle returns. Drasil. What do we think about it?
It's gonna be bad. Look, Drasil F is not a good shape for Beyblade. It might be passable for some. It's not going to be good for defense. I'll say that. There's no way that shape's good for defense. Maybe you can throw it on like some attack builds or something, but I'm more interested in the bit. I'm interested to see how that works than the blade. It looks sick, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be good, like top tier by any means.
Like Leon Claw.
Yeah, exactly. S tier.
Oh.
I'm definitely kind of mixed about it because I like the idea of it more than anything. But if I just get rid of the fact that they brought back Drasil in some way, and if it was named something else, this would probably be something I care very little about. The shape is kind of odd. It doesn't look like there's a ton of metal on the top, so I assume it's going to be kind of light. And defense types are light anyway. Even if it is Drasil inspired, I would expect it to have a little bit of purple on it, and it has no purple at all, which kind of sucks. I wish it would have some of that in there. 460 is, whatever. Okay. And then dot just makes me uncomfortable. It's like trypophobia or I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's just super weird. And I don't think Jog Ball from Metal Fight was really that great either.
Nope.
So it's just it's a nice thing to have in the collection, and I'm glad that Takara Tomy did it. But if they wouldn't have obviously made it Drasil inspired, I don't think anybody would care about this random booster.
Well,
there's a lot of cool stuff in this random booster, though.
Yeah.
Besides the rush and the other parts, but I meant like the random booster prize.
The prize. I don't know. I think the bit might be. I actually think the bit might be decent. I mean, was the bit great in Metal Fight? No, because of all the other really good tips that we had, like defensive tips that we had. But I think it might do okay in X, just because it will be a more defensive ball, basically. But we'll have to see, because X is weird. Like stuff that you expect to perform one way, like ends up just being very different in X.
I don't even think Needle was good in Burst. I think people just wore down Needle or something. I mean, the thing is with defense in general, one thing that you just touched on was weight. Weight's such a big thing. And if your defenses are light, that's already going to be big worries. But defense bits not having burst resistance is probably the biggest L in game design. Like in Burst Season 1, it was the fact that attack types that have the most recoil have the weakest teeth. That was bad. Okay, now... And plus, attack and burst resistance took so long until we got like dash drivers for attack to actually like be serious. But defense, with the goal of being able to take attack types to have the same shit resistance as stamina, doesn't make any sense. Because like we technically only have one good defense bit, and it's not even defense; it's Hexa.
Yeah, I agree. I think they need to add burst resistance to defense tips. Like even high burst resistance Needle like wouldn't be a particularly great part. So I'm not sure why it has why it has the lighter burst resistance.
It's also like, because the thing is like with needle, right? Maybe there's some needle enjoyers out there. I'm not one of them. But the issue with needle is that it's not very, and things with these defense types anyways, I think Night Shield especially has like a little bit of extra metal on the inside to a certain area, so it's kind of off balance. So the issue shouldn't be that it doesn't have burst resistance, because that's the whole point of defense types, right? So it should have that enhanced burst resistance, but it should not really be balanced. So it'll kind of fall apart, or it might kind of tilt and whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's like for needle, it has horrible burst resistance, or, you know, at least the worst of the two types that are out. And it's also not balanced at all. There's just no point in using defensive blades right now for defense combos. Maybe you could find another use for them, right? But it's like a fake type. Like, it's really stamina. It kind of reminds me of stamina types, or what a stamina type should be, to where if they get knocked around, it's GG's, right? So it's just kind of odd. And I hope they make some changes in the future, because there's a whole section of beys that really nobody cares about, nobody uses, for the most part.
I mean, you've kind of seen use with High Needle and maybe some Asia events. I think Cobalt Drake, Wizard Rod, but that's because of the weight. Like, you either have it where you have to make these things heavy, and because they're heavy, if you try to do a bit burst where it recoil releases from the ratchet, you can have that, and they don't have to have the resistance. But it's either one or it's the other. Either give them resistance or you don't. And it's like defense bits already as is shouldn't have good stamina, technically speaking. But I don't know. It's a type that I don't think is the biggest kind of illusion in Beyblade, because I don't really think defense, like 9 times out of 10, is something actually defense, or is it just like stamina? You know, it's like a weak type that they've ever done. Like, even if you go back to burst, like Orbit and Atomic are basically used as stamina. You know, it's like...
Yeah. I mean, I think Metal Fight had some good defensive... well, I don't know if they were labeled as defensive, but there's definitely good defensive builds in Metal Fight. But that's mostly due to the parts that are available. So I think like the introduction of rubber defensive bits would make a huge impact. But
defense is something that's definitely more like an anime thing, because in the anime they can spin it however they want, and if it's like, oh, this bey it doesn't get knocked out of the middle, but then it just dies in stamina for pretty much no reason, right? But in real life, if it doesn't get knocked around, it's not going to lose its stamina in the same way. So for the most part, it'll make a good stamina type as well. So that's just, you know.
I mean, so like, let's say you have rubber ball and ball. Like, ball is going to outspin rubber ball like pretty much every time, but rubber ball is going to be way better against aggro stuff. So you still got the balance there.
Yeah. So the thing I was going to say was, it's kind of weird how they did this number thing for burst resistance. I think it's something like 80-20, but I don't think they've done anything where it's like a 30 burst resistance, a 40, a 50, or whatever the arbitrary numbers are. And I'm kind of wondering, are we going to see variations in the future where it's like half a resistor on a bit, a full? Because otherwise, I don't know why they put the numbering there, because it doesn't make any sense to me when I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that we start to see more like in-depth sort of gimmicks when it comes to burst resistance and bit material typing and stuff like that, probably next season, I would hope.
Yeah, probably towards like the end of the year. Because right now they're definitely focusing on kind of blade shapes, blade designs, and whatnot. Like, ratchets have been kind of boring for a little while, but, you know, we're getting 3 different heights now, but eventually, you know, I hope we get like a 50 height or even like a 90. I don't know if a 90 would be good, but it's something new. It's fun, right? So I would definitely bits are probably I don't even know how would it work? Like, how would a 30 or a 50 work for burst resistance? Would it just be the thicker part of the shaft, like moving upwards, or that's it?
You could do like, I think he was saying like half of one side has increased burst resistance, and then the other half like maybe doesn't. Or you could have it be slightly thicker, slightly thinner, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that could. Yeah, the width also could probably be something, but I kind of want to throw it up to the next one. What is your favorite Bey in the random booster in terms of color? Visually, it doesn't have to be competitive. Which one kind of like calls to you that like that's a pretty cool one? In the new one.
Released so far, and the one coming up.
In the shell, the Drasil.
I'd have to go with either the Neon Wizard Rod or the Phoenix.
What about you?
Oh. Yeah, I think the winner is definitely the winner here is definitely Phoenix. I'm a little disappointed that it's not painted. Yeah. There are some people there are some people that are like, yeah, it's good that it's not painted because it won't get messed up. It's like, dude, so it's like, that doesn't make any sense. That's like, you might as well get a car that doesn't have any paint on it because you can't scratch the paint. But nobody ever thinks like that, you know? Like, it just looks cool no matter what. But also the fact that it comes with Hexa is pretty cool as well.
Oh, yeah.
True.
I think it's just a winner. It's just a winner. It's two really, really good parts. Wizard Rod is good too, but the monster neon coloring isn't my favorite. But if they would have made that one blue instead, then Rod probably would have taken it. Because that comes on Rush, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that comes on Rush, and Rush is cool too. So, but I think that blue Phoenix just takes it for me, just by a little bit.
Yep. I'm also in the Blue Phoenix Club. I think it's just iconic whenever you swap like an iconic color of a Bey and you kind of flip it around. It's always nice to see. I think the ugliest goes to this one. I don't know how many fans there are of this Unicorn Sting. It looks like bad.
I actually kind of like it.
Of course you do.
I'm not the biggest Unicorn fan. I'm not gonna lie. Oh. Like, it's one of my least favorites actually. But I do like that. I do like that recolor.
All right, fair enough.
The problem with red Beys and red recolors like that one, and we saw it with the Leon Claw in the random booster as well, is that they just make everything so aggressively red or orange, and they have almost nothing to contrast it with. Like, we saw that red Leon Claw in the anime, right? I don't remember what her name is that uses it, but that one has a much better gear motif design. And if they would have released it like that, it wouldn't make the Bey itself any better, but it would have looked a little bit better, I think. Yeah. And with Unicorn Sting, it's just so orangey red everywhere. Yeah. It just it looks boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like for them to start breaking up some of like the chip colors versus like the plastic inlay. Because like you said, there isn't a lot of contrast in a lot of these recolors. It's mostly like all red, all blue, all green, whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny because what you're saying is true. That's the issue with most Takara Tomy recolors for X. Like, it's too monocolored. Sometimes they're different, but like then Hasbro is like almost the reverse issue, where then there's like too many colors. Like, I feel like I'm getting ADD blasted when I look at Knife Shinobi with like 15 different shades of colors of like pink, yellow, light blue, dark blue. I don't know, like, bro, it looks disgusting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm hoping that maybe they're keeping it because I'm trying to remember the metal fight, like those initial metal fight random boosters and more burst actually. Beginning burst ones, and I think Metal Fight 2 had that same issue where everything was very, very just one color, very solid. And it wasn't until Metal Fight, maybe not so much, because we saw some really weird color scheme mixtures that looked hideous, but you had more flexibility to make combos if you bought the full set. But for burst, it was all very one color. But as soon as layers got more intricate and had more, we had some metal here and there, different pieces of plastic mixing in, they made it more detailed over time. So maybe that's something we'll see. but some of these recolors do look very, very bland. And if you don't like the color, you're not going to like it.
Yeah. Early Metal Fights had the issue where they didn't even recolor this sticker. It was like the stock colors, which looked really bad. They were kind of random, didn't really color match. Burst was okay for the earlier ones, but
for dual layers they were.
Yeah, it's.
I think dual layers had a good amount of like color mixing, but like single layers, like you would have like pretty much primary colors, like blue Valkyrie, red Valkyrie, white Valkyrie, black Valkyrie, and pretty much the only color variation was the stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, on to the next one. A bay that is coming July 13th. The bay that rotates counterclockwise. In reference to Bakuten Shoot Beyblade, Tako Kiyomiya is still dead, but we have its ancestor. I don't know what I'm saying. Cobalt Dragoon. What do you think about it?
Very hype. Very, very hype. I think, and I've said this before, that I think that every season, ideally, should have those releases that set the hobby forward. And as soon as it stops having them, that's when it really starts to regress, right? So in season 1, I guess like pre-anime for Beyblade Burst, it'd be Excalibur. Okay, but that's kind of a light example.
No, that's
but in
a good one.
season 1, but yeah, because that was when you got Extreme for the first time, right?
And
then for season 1, it was Longinus because that was the first left spin, and then for season 2, it was definitely Spriggan Requiem, right?
Yep.
So that's when it was like peak, and those releases, like I'm pretty sure you can remember where you were at or how much hype there was in the community, and how much hype there was whenever it came to Hasbro as well. And I think this is our first true example of that in this generation, that just everybody is unanimously liking it, and if they don't like it, they're probably being contrarians more than anything. Hot take, but
no, I agree. I usually, especially when you go on the site that they had where they went over the history, there are like set points, like the equivalent of Excalibur and X is Phoenix Wing for like the kind of the importance of it. The importance of left is such a big shift because every second season of Beyblade is usually the peak popularity, because most Metal Fight fans, if you ask them what's your most popular Bey that you remember, Mediel Drago, Gravity Perseus, Hell Curb X. Burst, what was your favorite season? God, Spriggan Requiem, Shuhu, Nightmare Longinus, Free. That's like the peak when they usually kind of go a little bit hard, and that's when we start to see them get more creative. Metal Fight, it was the Maximum series, which still was a little bit scary how they did that. Burst, you had the birth of so many left rotating bays, Arc Bahamut, Drain Fafnir, Nightmare Longinus. It kind of is like, it's like a special feeling because once the history starts, you start to feel like a connection to it, and kind of like what you were saying. So that's why I'm really, even if this release ends up being like, let's say it's like C tier, something like C for Cobalt, it's still hype to have this, like, especially too, because the biggest thing about this release is that it's how it's going to move in the stadium is going to be the most hype thing, because this is the thing we all thought of day one, where because how the X Stadium is, they're always going to meet each other if you do an attack versus an attack battle.
Hey, I think we lost my video. No, just keep the monologue and just like stick a picture of my face there. So I'll
send like a...
I'll picture my cat. There you go. Just stick it there for like 2 minutes.
He said what?
Yeah.
No, yeah, but like I was saying, in terms of what are you kind of hoping for Cobalt Dragoon to basically do? I think that's the more interesting question, because we already know it's going to change the meta, but like, what do you want to see it accomplish?
So I personally think it looks too recoily to be used for any kind of crazy stamina builds. Like you said, like stuff is going to meet on those rails and they're going to end up hitting each other. So like, I know a lot of people are like, we're going to throw it on disc ball. I think that's not going to work out that well. I think it's just going to be left spin attacker. I think it'll be decent. It's going to change up. I think the biggest thing that it's going to change is launching. So like a lot of my strategy right now is like evasion for the first couple seconds, which involves sitting on the left side, sort of in the left top corner. And that's not going to be an option with like if it's up against Dragoon, like you'll just get smashed. So I'm going to have to rethink sort of like how I'm launching against left spin because of the stadium.
Yeah, from my side, I think it's going to have kind of a similar effect to maybe like Dran Buster, sort of, to where it's like either you really like it or you like. I really like Dran Buster.
Yeah.
I don't do any like WBO like super official tournaments, but in my local scene, it's just fun. It's fun. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it kind of does depend on the way you launch as well.
Yeah.
You can kind of maybe predict it a little bit, but if you're going up against, like Nizuma said, going up against that left spin, which has a completely different pattern, that does change it up. But for me, I could be surprised, but I'm not really expecting it to do anything crazy in terms of, it'll be a meta shift for sure, because people are going to try and force it more than anything, even if it's not great.
Yeah.
But I think arguably the more important thing, like from my side, is the audience perception, because you're going to have those people that are like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for, and so now I'm going to be a fan, and so they join in. That could be a person that just watches the anime and they play their spin tops, but that could be another person that joins the more competitive side of the community, does more testing, etc. So I think what it'll do for the community and for the hobby in general, especially when Beyblade X is kind of on that upward grind, will be a much more significant impact than the meta. Yeah. Although, like you said earlier, what that could mean for season 2, like say if we get a left spin stamina type, or if we get something like Gravity Perseus or Gravity Destroyer for the Hasbro homies out there, where you get something that's dual spin, this release just kind of unlocks that potential, and that is where we're going to see, I think, much more of a meta shift, in my view. But I could be wrong. It could be completely overpowered and everybody uses it. I don't know.
Yeah. Most of it's going to depend on the weight, because equalization and stopping that force is only going to work if you are either, let's say, as strong a launch or the weight. I think if, let's say we assume the weight is like a 35, whatever, I think it'll just do okay. If it's like 37, 38, oh, okay, that's maybe where it gets a little bit interesting. I think something that's really interesting and it's going to be really cool. It's like getting to each of these points in history, for Beyblade especially, is something that's really nice, because we're all content creators, and it's going to be so interesting to kind of see kind of how we approach it, right? Like, BBG has their coverage, Left Burst, whatever. I think it's interesting to kind of see how content creators are going to kind of evolve with the types of ideas and whatever, because there's so many ideas you can do with like just Dragoon by itself. And I think that is part of the fun in this, and especially with Beyblade in general, it's kind of just seeing, like you said, the reaction from others, and also just kind of seeing the general hype. Because I think for the most part, Beyblade X has one thing good going for it, which is something that a lot of people didn't like Burst for, which is fine, but the metal contacts, we are getting those Metal Fight fans like slowly coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I think, I'm super hyped. I'm definitely hyped for Dragoon. I'm glad that they've kept the Dragoon naming. I think it's a cool throwback. Like the whole Bakutin Shoot line or spiritual successor line that they're doing, I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Like I said, I don't think the bay is going to be broken. It just it looks kind of recoily and not in a amazing way. Right. Like 4-bladed attack blades are usually, depending on the shape, not super amazing. At least not in X. Like Cobalt Drake is like not, I wouldn't say is amazing. It's good because it's heavy, but the shape, it's a square. So yeah, I think the weight's going to be the big deciding factor for how it affects the actual meta. But I am super excited to see left spin and to see it be named Dragoon. I think that's super cool. Yeah,
I think it's going to be interesting to see how clapped Pendragon is, because I got into depression testing out Vice Tiger. That shit is so mid. It's like crazy. Like if they released Vice Tiger like a year ago, like that would be crazy. But like Black Shell. But by the way, the recolor shouldn't even be called Black Shell if it's yellow. It should be called Yellow Shell. But we already know that one's gonna be clapped. So it's like Chrome's got to carry his team, man.
Yeah, I've been struggling since Vice came out. It's I want it to be good so bad, but it's like really not great.
I'd say like it's like average. I mean, maybe even below average, but I feel like most everything, because there's really only a few things that are like S tier to me, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't done nearly as much testing as you guys have, but my impressions from it is that it would be like smack dab right in like the most average area of a tier list. Which it's fun to battle with though. I think it's fun. Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't take it to a tournament. I think there's better options for every other typing pretty much.
I'm definitely going to take it to a tournament just because I like the way it looks so much. It's basically, it's Leon Claw 2.0 coat. But it's definitely one of my favorite looking so far. But performance wise, the shape is not doing it any favors.
I want to say, even though I have a love and hate right now in X. I think in Burst it would be maybe the opposite, but in X right now I've been running kind of pure attack, or technically balanced, but I just count balance as basically attack. Like, I really love Buster's #1 because that shit's just cool, man. That one-hit KO is like, I got clapped in last tournament because of that, but we don't talk about that. But Tyranno Beat, I love that one so much. Just the design of it and everything, just like that's been like. Usually Buster's #1, but Tyranno Beat's kind of like #2. But that's like the next question as we want to kind of leave off with. Who is your favorite partner, Bey? Now, Nizuma, I have a guess of what the first one is.
Yeah, I don't think it's any question that like Leon Claw has definitely been my favorite since it came out. I really like the design aesthetic of it. It looks really cool. I like cats, obvious, like a cat with lasers coming. Yeah, check out the drip, guys. I've always like the white tigers from Plastic Gen were always some of my favorites. I just like the aesthetic. I like the whole. It reminds me of Plastic Gen, and I like the character. The character King, I think, is a really interesting character. I think a lot of the side characters for Beyblade X actually have, it seems like, a lot more personality than some of the Team Persona members. So, as a whole, I like the blade. And at this point, like, I've used it so much now that I've become even more attached to the Beyblade because of how much content I've pumped out on it. Like, I feel like I'm committed to the grind now, even if it's outclassed. It's just, But yeah, definitely Leon Claw.
What about your second one, though? I said 2, man.
Oh, 2. Man.
Leon Claw Red.
No. Vice Tiger.
All right. Okay. What about you?
For me, it was really... Like, whenever it's probably going to be a really basic answer, but probably Buster, which I was surprised about because it's one of those things where you look online, you kind of see community sentiment, and if it's mostly negative, you're kind of going to sometimes tend to be like, oh yeah, maybe it's not that good, right? But whenever I get something new, or if I just want to, like, I have my stadium set up and I just want to like just run a battle really quick, I think that just Dran Buster on Rush, okay? On Excel, I don't really care. But on a Rush, there's something about it that just, like, those one-hit KOs, or even if it's not a one-hit KO, it just has that major impact. I think it just makes me, like, not remember, because I've always known, but it just really exemplifies the fun of the system, which is that speed, the crazy contact. You can hear the metal. You're glad you have the shroud and that you're not using the Hasbro bucket, or else you take a Buster right to the face. It's just a lot of fun, and I've been using it in my more like competitive tournaments, and it doesn't win every time. Like,
right.
You know, if I use like Phoenix on point or Wizard Rod on Hexa, you know, those arguably have a better win rate. But Buster, it's like that worry of, oh, is it gonna hit? Is it gonna? And if it does, and it does what you want it to do, it's such a great feeling. And then for my second one's tough. This might be kind of a basic answer, but I'm probably gonna have to go with Wizard Rod, which is the complete. And that's just because it's the complete opposite. Because that thing can tank the hits, and you're like, how did that happen? How did it possibly take that sort of a hit and still it kind of equalize itself or rebalance itself? So kind of basic answers, but
no, that's good.
That's why I'm kind of a fan of UX a little bit, and I'm disappointed to see Shinobi Shadow and the upcoming Leon be.
Hey,
I don't know about. I don't know.
It's not even.
I don't know. I don't know. I wish they would do a little bit more with it. To be honest, I thought they would do more.
Yeah.
But some of those UX releases, I think, are just a lot of fun for sure.
I'll cover some of those points. Definitely Drawn Buster #1. I agree with the sentiment. I just like the idea that it just kills someone in one go. I'm not a psychopath, guys. Probably the second one is like Tyrannobeat or Phoenix Wing. Maybe Phoenix Wing, but not just because it's dominant. It's mostly because I just like Burn as a character, and I just feel he's so interesting. He essentially just tries to get everything done for him, and he gets clapped like the first battle he gets into, and it's just, I don't know, there's something about that I just like. It's like he's like the Vegeta in Beyblade X, where he's like doing like the pose, and then he gets his ass beat right after. But
yeah, he goes from Vegeta to Yamcha real quick with that just Yamcha death pose.
Yeah, UX, originally I thought it was going to be, they maybe put more unique gimmicks on it, and it ended up just being, it's like, they're not really that different other than the weight distro, which yes, they did lean towards that, but it's kind of whatever. But as we kind of wrap up, fellas, if you want to plug anything at all or any ending remarks, the stage is yours. Nizuma, no Leon Claw plug.
Oh, I was literally going to say something about the new Leon Claw, Leon Crest.
Hey, it said no Leon Claw plug, not Leon Crest.
True. Guys,
semantics.
Don't dismiss Leon Crest. It's going to be S+ tier. Trust.
Gear Needle, guys.
Yes, it's like new mold Gear Needle. It's going to be so good. If you guys want to, I have a YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out. I cover Beyblade content from Plastic Gen all the way up to X. You come hang out and watch my videos. Subscribe.
Brilliant.
All right, and for me, I appreciate being on here. It's pretty fun. Hopefully, it won't be too long until I make another appearance. But if you guys want to check me out, you know, at Nook here on YouTube, or I'm sure maybe something will be in the description or whatever. I don't think Leon Claw is S tier though, so if that's a problem, then I might not be your Baytuber, but
you guys know who to subscribe to.
Yeah, so it's really up to you, but I guess go and check me out.
Well, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Nizuma for being here, and as well Ilinnuc. I think it was really awesome to have both of you here to kind of show that, you know, Beyblade's about fun, we all support each other, and I think it's good to have this nice discussion. In the description, you will be able to find Nizuma for his socials and Ilinnuc for his socials, so please, if you're a new viewer listening right now, make sure to subscribe to both of them and support them. And until next time, will Cobalt Dragoon be meta? Will Nizuma find a new bay to grift on? Find out next time on Beyblade X.